Good evening, Trump's family. Welcome back to my channel. Have a good night, everyone, and God bless you. Alright, the following is a collection of news from Patriots. Let's get into the news this late Tuesday night. And it looks like Trump is absolutely hitting back at the DOJ and FBI with a potential lawsuit that aims at their abuse of his Fourth Amendment right. And of course, I'm sure there's some other things that are under the other line, but DOJ and FBI absolutely overreached to Biden. DOJ. This is worse. As they like to say, this is worse than what Nixon did to his political opponent, right? Biden is taking a page right out of Nixon, right, and searching for things that his political opponent, there's more and more evidence coming out, that Biden had ordered this DOJ hid in order to figure out what dirt Trump had on him. And of course you don't need much dirt on Biden, he says it all in open, and obviously his record right now shows the American people want a big mistake it was to have this dude in charge of this country. So let's kind of take a look at this coming to us from Becker News over here. It says Trump lawyer hits at taking legal action over the FBI raid that violated former president's rights at a level rarely seen before in this country. Former President Donald Trump and his attorneys are threatening legal action overdue FBI as invasive raid of his Mar-a-Lago home gym. Trustee attorney for Donald Trump told conservative radio host Mark Levin on Friday that we're going to have to get the court involved. Everyone listen to this. Fourth Amendment requires particularity, it requires narrowness to the intrusion on the person's home. And this warrant had language in it. Then keep in mind, all we've seen is a one in an inventory. But the warrant has language in it about if you find a classified document, you can take the whole box around it, and you can take any boxes near it. And that's really the functional equivalent of a general search. There's just no limit to that kind of scope in the warrant. We're gonna come out swinging and say, look, this cannot be something where we just get a kind of a wink and a nod from DOJ that we're supposed to trust them. Under these circumstances, we're gonna have to get court-involved judicial intervention at the district court level to get somebody in the mix here that can help us vindicate the Fourth Amendment right to the president. Yeah, and that's huge, right? What they want to do here. So as we come out here, the left, let's see here. Yeah, right here. The FBI raid was personally approved by Attorney General Mark Garland, who was denied a Supreme Court seat when Trump became president. It took place under Joe Biden, who insists he will be the political rival against Donald Trump in any 2020 for re-election campaign, but nonetheless, nice to have any foreknowledge of the FBI unprecedented action. The search warrant was approved by Judge Bruce Reinhart, and Obama donor were legal connections to Jeffrey S.V. The overbroad search warrant encompass any government and or presidential records created between January 25, 2017, and during January 20, 2021. The entire fiasco reeks of an unconstitutional fishing expedition. And it remains to be seen if the American people will get the transparency they deserve about what happened to their duly elected president. But if the former president filed a lawsuit in federal court over the matter, they are bound to discover the truth sooner or later. So we'll see how this plays out. We'll see how this will roll out. But I'm certain that the DOJ and the FBI cannot be happy about this. And I'm sure Biden is definitely panicking over everything leading back to him. And of course, Obama, all of this has been orchestrated beyond Biden. We need to know that it's been orchestrated by other players, and they don't want to be implicated in all this is why they wanted Biden, so maybe they can use as a puppet to and have their schemes ran through him, so therefore, they can't be connected. This is what corruption truly looks like. And oh no, Joe Biden's approval rating is on the up and up, folks. A major bounce back. Lefties are rejoicing and cheering and celebrating that even the most recent arrests. Musin reports poll shows Joe Biden at 47% approval. Of course, 47% isn't exactly a high approval rating for a Democrat president. That could be an anomaly. Whatever it is, point is Joe Biden is seeing a bump that's undeniable. His approval is going back up after signing into law the Inflation Reduction Act, and as markets rallied off the July CPI report numbers, they're calling it the Biden boom. But of course, like most messaging campaigns coming out of the Democrat Party, it's completely tone deaf, out of touch with reality, and just a bunch of elitist fools patting themselves on the back. There's no Biden boom, folks. People are falling for the Democrat messaging scam. And the reality remains that the Biden recession continues. In fact, it's very possible, and some would even argue very likely, that we've only seen the start. Warnings of a red November continue. Honestly, absolutely. Nothing has changed for the last 6 months. And it's yet again another dishonest Democrat game. Let me show you guys exactly what I mean by that. We got some stuff to get into. So let's roll the tape. Alright, friends. So of course we know that Joe Biden keeps claiming that his economic plan is working. And my economic plan is moving this country in a better direction. Korean Jean Pierre said that the economy is stronger than it's been historically. Everyone listen to this. To take this on, we got to have some be in a good historic economic place, which is where we are right now. Okay, so but what it really is a massive victory slap in the face of regular Americans that are struggling. Joe Biden tells you that his economy is working for everyone. I mean, that's the far-left Bernie Sanders-style rhetoric that they've taken. We're going to make an economy that works for everyone. Well, if that's the case, then why is it that Gallup just released this data right over here in the United States? Poor life ratings reach record high. Washington, D.C. The percentage of Americans who evaluate their lives poorly enough to be considered, quote, suffering on Gallup's Life Evaluation Index was 5.6% in July, the highest since the index's inception in 2008. This exceeds the previous high of 4.8%, measured in April, and is statistically higher than old prior estimates of the COVID era across extensive measurements since January 2008. Suffering percentage has reached 4.5 or higher on a handful of occasions. The most recent results obtained July 26 to August 2, 2022 are based on web surveys of 3,649 U.S. adults, as part of the Gallup panel, a probability-based non-opt-in panel of about 115,000 adults across all 50 states and the District of Columbia for its Life Evaluation Index. Gallup classifies Americans as, quote, thriving, struggling, or, quote, suffering according to how they rate their current and future lives on a ladder scale, which steps numbered from 0 to 10. Based on the Cantrell, self-anchoring, striving scale, folks, Joe Biden's talking a whole lot about his historic success. Now, Joe Biden is certainly breaking records and making history, then in all of the wrong ways. This index was created in 2008, after the most recent major recession. There's been little recessions here and there, but the biggest, most devastating recession, at least in modern history, was 2008. That's when this Gallup Index was created. The percent of Americans that are, quote, suffering is the highest it's been since this index was created. And there are more people suffering today than post-2008 financial crisis. That's Joe Biden's economic plan working. That's Joe Biden's historic economy, his economy that works for everyone, and not just the top 1%. But clearly, Joe Biden's economy is only working for the most elitist, most privileged, asset-owning Americans. The reality is the economy is not working for everyday Americans. And this idea the Democrats are trying to push, that all of the economic woes and all of the issues are basically over and it's just slow and steady growth right on the horizon. Well, that seems utterly preposterous as well. We've seen the most recent bear market rally as the Dow Jones hovers above 33,000. The S&P peaked above 4,300. But already as markets open on Monday, we saw another massive tank because yes, maybe the CPI reading last month wasn't as high as people were expecting, or it showed that inflation might have peaked. But the idea that that means that the war is over is ridiculous. A battle may have been won in May. It's a little bit too early to say that inflation has peaked, but the war is certainly not over, and Democrats and many extremely naive and hopeful people think that it is and put their money back into the markets. But of course we know that there's celebrate at 8.5% inflation. Joe Biden is declaring victory on inflation when it's 8.5%. And food was at 13.1%. Completely ridiculous. That's what I mean by a preemptive victory lap, or rather a victory slap in your face. And of course, the economic woes and the market woes aren't just magically going to disappear because inflation is still above 8%, meaning the Fed has to continue to tighten, and the economy will not thrive in a high-interest environment. It's never going to happen, because it's never happened to before, meaning there's probably, I'd say, at minimum, another 6 months of hard economic times to withstand, and that's probably best-case scenario. That's if the Fed continues to respond with quantitative tightening and rate hikes. And that leads to a serious, swift drop in inflation. And then magically, the Fed pivots, turns around, and we go back to low-interest environment and back into a bull run. The chances of that happening in 6 months seem highly unlikely. In fact, The last time there was an inflation crisis in the 1970s. It took over a decade to regain stability. The stock market hovered for over 10 years. We saw the summer rush with some of the jobs reports that Biden was promoting. Again, they're telling you it's a sign that we're not in a recession. Joe Biden keeps telling you we're not in a recession. Just look at the jobs. Meanwhile, 97% of executives say that the US is in a recession, despite Biden's definition change. But we saw a little summer rush. It's nothing out of the ordinary. It's pretty much what was expected. And now we're headed into the fall with high interest rates, record high credit card debt, falling wages. In respect to continued hyperinflation, manufacturing is seriously starting to slow down if the Democrats want you to believe that it's all smooth sailing from here. Yeah, I'm going to call BS on that one, especially when some of the most important key economic indicators remain not just bad, but terrible. Take a look at the United States dollar compared to the euro. Again, a lot of people think that this is a good thing. The United States dollar is strong. I mean, that must be amazing, right? No, Europe is in the midst of an energy crisis. And their dollar gets weaker and weaker and weaker. Their purchasing power continues to fall. Guess what? Europeans buy American goods and services, but it's becoming harder and harder for them to be able to purchase American goods as their dollar continues to crumble. And the American dollar continues to become more powerful. This is actually a doom and gloom indicator. This is terrible. This right over here, folks, is the cost of electricity in Germany and France. It's just starting to peak. Now, this is a lagging indicator, meaning we're not going to see the fallout of these high energy costs until a couple months out. Again, you might be thinking, well, that's happening in Germany and France doesn't exactly affect me. No, it does. What I'm looking at is a cascading effect. Here, the Democrats are playing politics by using little headline numbers to make it seem as if their economic agenda is working ahead of the 2022 midterms. But the reality is absolutely nothing has changed. We're still in an energy crisis, an affordability crisis. And the question is, how much longer can the average consumer continue to take this hit? I'm personally thinking not much longer. And then to add insult to injury in this very troubled economic time, Joe Biden has the audacity to sign on another almost $1 trillion bill, more than $300 billion in initial spending, and even more down the line in his Inflation Reduction Act. He wants you to believe that it's all over and that he's solved the problem with a stroke of a pen. But I'm sitting here thinking absolutely nothing has changed. It might be even worse than we initially predicted. In fact, a famed Big Short investor, Michael J. Burry, just sold almost his entire stock portfolio, predicting another bear market downturn. Who knows if he's correct, but if you have the option between trusting Michael J. Burry or Joe Biden, the decision to me seems pretty damn clear. I don't think we're out of this Biden recession just yet. I think the worst has yet to come. But of course, I hope I'm wrong. And we'll just have to see what happens over time. Ladies and gentlemen, give me your thoughts below. And hit subscribe right now.